reminder. So today, Drew Kaufman and Kim Gavlik are going to be presenting technology tools for volunteers and administrators.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Gavlik. I am the program administrator for our adult education and family literacy program at Luzerne County Community College in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. So we're in the northeast corner of the state. If you are not familiar with this area, you might be familiar with Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. Those are our biggest cities. And my colleague, Drew Kaufman, is here. He's from one of our other big cities in Luzerne County, Hazleton. You want to introduce yourself, Drew?
Hi, everybody. My name's Drew Kaufman, and I'm primarily HSC and ABE instructor.
This is really not working.
In Hazleton. Oh, something's not working. Okay. And yeah, I'm here at the Hazleton Center, and where I primarily teach remote classes. I have one high flex class that we're kind of starting with my ABE students, and I've been kind of, we're kind of all been forced to use technology because of COVID and remote learning, but I'm finding that my students primarily like remote learning, and I have some pretty large classes where I teach through Zoom. And I welcome everybody here, and hopefully we can show you some things that can help you out with tutoring and working with students. Kim? Yep.
Okay, so yeah, our agenda today looks small, but there is a lot we're going to try and pack into this hour. Drew's going to give you some tools that he's used. He's going to demonstrate some of those and talk a little bit about ways that you could integrate some digital literacy and teaching tools into your tutoring classroom or one-on-one setting. And then I was going to take a little different approach and look at things from an administrator or tutor coordinator perspective and show how we've been using some technology for staff development and program administration. So that's our goal for today. Maybe before I get started, I don't know how many we have on, but if anybody is there anybody who is not a tutor that maybe is more of an administrator? If you want to raise your hand. Okay, we have one. Okay, I see one. If you want to put something in the chat, or if you just want to use one of the reaction tools, just kind of give us a little sense of who our audience is today. So it looks like the majority of you might be tutors. Okay.
It only went in part way for me.
Okay, so that's good. Thank you, everyone. So I think what you're going to hear next from Drew is probably going to be very beneficial. Oops, I went in the wrong direction. For you as you are trying to set up classes. If you do remote instruction at all, a lot of what Drew is going to show you is going to really be helpful. So Drew, do you want me to stop sharing? And, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing for the moment, and Drew's going to kind of take over with some of his resources.
Everybody got smaller. Okay. That always happens when I share. And I think I'm sharing my screen now. Hello, everybody. Again, I used over the years, I found a lot of technology websites and tools and apps that I've found useful. I found a lot over the time too that have not been as useful as I wanted them to be, but these are probably the ones that I use the most in delivering my lessons, and also in working with students, or if they need more practice in a certain area or help with something. So some of these are lesson delivery things that you can use in the classroom or remotely. Some things are just tools, and I'll kind of just go over them quickly. I think we're going to share this PowerPoint eventually too, because all of the PowerPoints have the links to the websites and the tools that we're using. The first thing I want to show you is Adobe Acrobat. I think most people are familiar with Adobe Acrobat files, the PDF files, but a lot of times we don't use the full-fledged features of Adobe Acrobat. And I just kind of want to show you how I use it a lot of times. So I have a lot of things scanned in, various texts and worksheets into Adobe Acrobat, and I'll kind of just hopefully my share will follow what I'm doing here. And so I'm just going to flip over to my Adobe screen. And are we seeing that, everybody? Okay. So this is just a page from, I think it's the Number Sense books. And if we were working with any subject at all, right? If you have something scanned into PDF and you bring it up in Adobe Acrobat, we actually here at the college have what's called the Pro version, but if you bring it up in DC, which stands for Document Cloud, you can save it in the cloud. But also too, you have some features, even in the free version, you have these features on the side, these little tools. And the one that I use the most is probably this little comment tool. So if I bring up a worksheet and present it to somebody, if I'm presenting it in class or I'm presenting it online, I can just click on the pencil tool and we can say, what is this temperature right here? Or I can underline things with the pencil tool, or I can even write things. If we're talking about positive 8 as an answer, we can write right on it, which makes it very easy to present something and to work with students. You also have text tools too. So if we were working on a worksheet together, how would I write positive 8? We could put in, positive 8, and we can kind of do the answers and enter them in together. So I save a lot of documents to the Adobe Cloud, and then I can bring them up or share the link with my students. If they need to look at a worksheet or even whole books, you can save in the PDF format. And so I have a lot of things saved in there. And it's just a very handy program to use when presenting something from a worksheet or something, especially remotely. All right, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Any questions on Adobe or anything? Feel free to interrupt me because I have a lot of things I want to show you. And so if you have any questions or anything that you would like to know more about, just let me know. All right, and somebody's watching the chat too, because sometimes I don't watch the chat very well. Right, somebody's doing that. Rachel, you're watching that for me, right? Okay. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here. And another very useful program a lot of you might be aware of because I see them advertising on TV a lot is Canva. And Canva is a real good website. You can create your own free account and you can make all sorts of wonderful little graphics and documents and professional looking little slides for your PowerPoints, anything you can kind of think of. I use it primarily to make little announcements that I send in my texts and my messages to kind of give them a little bit more pizzazz. If I'm canceling class or something, I was away on vacation during Halloween, I have a little you can just quickly make a design. Things are a little slow, right? And so I was off on Halloween, so no GD class, and I can send that in a text message. You can easily save them or share things, but you can make all kinds of great things with Canva real easily because the elements are all right there. Right? You don't need to search for graphics and fonts and everything. You can just bring them right up when creating a document. Here's an invite. I just started an advanced GED math online class, and you can make really professional looking little announcements and things like that. So it really spices things up, and generally students respond more to graphic things. And so that's something I use to make a lot of different graphical things. Okay, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Another underused resource, I think a lot of us are aware that if we're using Microsoft products, we have the Paint program. And the Paint program I've been using for a number of years before even there was Zoom and whiteboards and all of that kind of thing. I used the internal Paint program that's included with anybody who has Windows. If you have Windows, just type in Paint in the little search bar and it comes right up. And well, that's not the one I wanted, but the Paint program, you can kind of do a lot of different things real quickly. You can type. If I type and present my notes, if you want to make something specific for a student, if you're working one-on-one with a student, or you're working remotely with a student, you can use it as your whiteboard. So I can put notes on triangles, and I can type right in there. Or if I need to draw something, I can draw something. If I need a triangle, I can quickly bring up a right triangle. We can go 3, 4, small pencil though. All right. And then what we can work on figuring out what the hypotenuse is by using the Pythagorean theorem, or I can change my color real easily. It's just a real good whiteboard to use, and it's right there already on your on your Windows taskbar. All right. Any questions, folks?
I just want to say that I think Drew's like the best at drawing with the mouse, because I cannot draw like that.
It's years and years of practice of mouse writing, I call it. I tried using, like, they have mouses that are that you can hold like pens. That didn't work for me. I just got good at drawing and writing with the mouse. Probably the biggest thing that has helped me out in helping students and delivering extra work for them, delivering assignments, is something called Teacher Made. And I'm going to flip over to that right now. Teacher Made is a way to quickly make interactive worksheets that students can complete online. It's a little bit harder on a phone, but I have students who bring up their assignments and their extra work and do them, and it automatically grades them, and you can see them, and you can recreate them, you can reassign them, you can change them, you can use almost anything as long as you have it scanned in as a backdrop for a worksheet. And I've probably since COVID began, I probably have 200 different assignments in Teacher Made. And let me just flip over to show you that. All right, so Teacher Made is right here. And so these are all of my assignments that I've delivered. A lot of them are primarily in math, but we have science, social studies, language arts. All of the subject areas are good for doing that. And if I were just I'll just click on something like, I don't know, what would be a good one here. Just did introduction to integers, so I'll click on that one. And if I just wanted to preview the worksheet, right, you can see I just took a simple little worksheet introducing positive and negative numbers. And what you can do is then you can insert little multiple choices. This is like a little multiple choice with 2 selections, which temperature is colder, so to get them to understand that the lower or the higher the value of the negative number, the lower or the farther it away is from 0, and they can kind of just put in the answers. Right. If they have to put something in order, you can type in the order numbers in there. Right. If they have to write an answer, looking at absolute value, you can put graphics in there. It's very easy. And then once they're done, they get a score, right? I didn't do very well since I only answered 2 or 3 questions. I only got 11%, but they can see their score. And also too, then I can see their score all listed, how they did. And they can do them over again and over again too. You can set up multiple attempts for them to do it. And
Drew?
it works out real well. Yes.
Can you navigate away from the screen that's showing student names, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And also, somebody asked to see a social studies example.
A social studies example? Sure. Yeah, let me just get back to here. Come on. Oh, let me see. What would be a social studies example? Maybe I'll just well, this is something that I've done with the national citizenship test, the sort of the 100 questions that you can get through the immigration services. We practice those. I practice those with all my students because everybody can kind of use a review in basic American history and citizenship things. And I think this is just, this is something we did in social studies just recently. And again, I don't want to look at the names there, but, and, here's a multiple choice test on, we elect a president for how many years? 4 years, and what month do we vote for president? It's just a multiple choice test. And it really only takes minutes once you get used to it to just kind of drop in the 4 choices and select the right one if you have the answer key handy, and boom, you have a worksheet that they can complete online. All they have to do is go to the special link that you give them and type in their name. Right, and they can start right on the worksheet.
And Drew, I would add, for anyone who's new to this platform, they do offer professional development webinars. I don't know if they do it monthly, so that you could get to know their platform. There is a free version of it, but if you want full access to all of the things that Drew's showing, you probably need to get the purchase.
You can do a lot with the free version, right? There's just a few little special options that if you get the professional version that you can do, but you can make worksheets and apply them, and very easily. We do vocabulary quizzes, and here's an old science practice test here. I guess I could have just clicked on it from there, right? Yeah. So this is right from a page from an old book there, and most of them again are multiple choice. Multiple choice is and here I did what's called drop downs, right? So if they choose, choice 2, you just select it from the drop down and it automatically works. But you can put in multiple choice, you can put in fill-in answers, you can put in hot spots, you can put in matching, you can put in you can easily modify any kind of question. Just use the page as your background and just insert the items on top of it. But that's something that I use a lot, right? Every lesson that I do, there's always a teacher-made assignment or some other kind of assignment very closely related. Keep on going here. So the next thing that I want to talk about, there are two really good sources of YouTube videos to kind of reinforce and help students, especially with math topics, are Light and Salt Learning, which is I have to thank whoever is in charge of Light and Salt Learning. They have literally hundreds of videos specifically detailing the skills that you need for the GED test, right? And HiSET and the other tests as well, right? And if you go to just kind of look at their playlists or their full length of videos, they have short videos, they have long videos. Here's some specific science test skills, balancing chemical reactions using science formulas. There's lots and lots of math videos. If I click on geometry, you can see there's perimeter solving, circles, surface area, and formulas. And I don't know. I don't want to really get. So that's a real good resource. Another real good resource is Math Antics. This is their website, but they also have a YouTube channel as well. This guy's very entertaining. It's almost like Bill Nye Science Guy for math. And his skills work really well, especially if I'm working with students, students that need to bring up their basic math skills. But there's also, there's algebra and fractions. And what's great too, you can also get an account. I think it's only like $10 a year if you get the full teacher account, and you can get worksheets to go with the videos, other little handouts and practice things that they can do that also go along with all of the videos. But it's primarily math, but we can go to basic division, fractions, all the way up to, geometry and the Pythagorean theorem and algebra and exponents and, simplifying polynomials. It has everything in there, and the students really respond well to them, and he explains things really, really well. He breaks things down with graphics. At first, it might seem a little hokey or childish, but it's actually like, sort of like Bill Nye Science Guy. All right, another resource that I use quite a bit. Where did we go here? Is something called quizzes. Quizzes I've started using in the last year or so. Especially, I have my one ABE, my one HSE class. I have sometimes upwards to 30 students in the remote class. And so how do I get them all engaged? And how do we practice things when we have a lesson on a certain skill? Well, quizzes, I think, is the best thing that I've used. And I'll show you what quizzes looks like. Okay. And so this is not quizzes. This is Quizlet. This is quizzes here. Okay. What I really like about quizzes is that if you can, it has a really good search engine and an extremely large library of thousands upon thousands of quiz games already set up. And if I pick something like integers, which we were just working with, working with positive and negative numbers, I can just select integers. If I whatever the topic is that you're working on, whether it's math or English or vocabulary skills or grammar skills, language skills, it's in there somewhere. Someone has designed a little quiz and you can use them right away. So, here's a little one on integers, and I'll just kind of, if I were to bring that up and sort of, where's the preview of it? Preview, right. And if you preview, you can just see what it looks like. I don't know if you can hear my computer sound, probably not, but there's flashcards. You can set up a timer. Okay. And this is what it looks like to the students when they see it. Right. And then they have to, kind of do the math and then select the answer, and you don't see each individual's person's responses. I mean, the teacher can at the end of the quiz, but if you get something wrong, it comes up on their display as incorrect, and sometimes there's little boosters and game things that they can put on. But when you're all done, there's sort of like a leaderboard as to how many points people got. You can take that. You can also take that off too. There's a timer. Generally, I take the timer off and kind of modify the time so that students can participate. Oh, I hate subtracting integers. What is it? At -18, that would be plus, so it'd be +2 to be what? -16. Yeah, right. All right. And again, it's all sorts of quizzes, and everybody can what I do is just put the link in the chat, and they all click on the link and join into the thing, join into the game. And we have 20, 30 people playing the game sometimes in some of my larger classes, and they all get a big charge out of it. All right. Any questions on quizzes? And again, for as a tutor, it's a good thing to kind of reinforce, and you can go in and modify some of the games and make them longer. You can make your own games, and they can be a lot of fun. There's little sound effects that happen and all sorts of things. All right, so I'm going back to the PowerPoint. Quizlet is something that I used to use. I don't use it as much. It's mostly for flashcards, right? And I'll show you that real quick here. So here are some of the ones that I've used recently. Here's one where we just did our last unit. And there's like a test, and there's matching games. We kind of you can use the flashcards one-on-one, or have the students, particularly if they're learning vocabulary or learning something like they need to review their times tables or something like that. All you have to do is, there's the definition, right? And if I click on it, there's the term, right? You can go to the next word. Part of a line that has two endpoints, right? Oh, that's a line segment, and they can review the terms and then take a little quiz or a little test or a little matching afterwards. So it's real good for vocabulary work with students that might need extra practice with that. And where are we at next here? And the last thing that I use, there's another very easy, if you need an easy practice skill for a lot of generally math topics. There's other topics in there as well. I use something called That Quiz, and That Quiz is free. And when you go to That Quiz, again, we don't want to see students, but these are some of the tests that I have made. And if you just kind of look at the test, and again, I'll just put my name in as right? You can just set these up in a matter of seconds. They're already there. All you do is set the length and the level of the test. So we have 20 problems practicing, practicing adding integers. And then, they have to put in the answer, right? And anybody help me out here? -15 and -14. What's that answer going to be? -29, is that right? I think so. Right. Right.
Drew, there was a question if this is just for math.
Let me break out to the original screen here. No, it's not just for math. You see over here, common tests. Yes, it's integer, fractions, concepts, geometry. But they have vocabulary ones in here. I haven't really played much with the vocabulary ones. We did do some geography practice things, like if we wanted to, practice different countries, or if I just wanted to practice on the US and various states, we can do that and set up little quizzes on that. You can look at tests that other teachers have made and shared, right? And you can make some of your own. I really haven't, there's so many in there already. I really haven't made any of my own. I kind of use everybody else's, which, why reinvent the wheel? But if I go under browse and type in just about anything, something will come up. I don't know why some of these things are going to come up, but if I wanted to do another topic, say grammar, I don't know what will come up. Here's, parts of speech, right? And there's the answer key, and you can kind of I can take this test, and what do? I have to match the values. Beside matches with, what is beside? Is beside a preposition? Is it a preposition? Clever would be, an adjective, right? You have little matching exercises for grammar. You just have to look around in there and find what works for you. I use it for a lot of the basic math skills. If we go back to that, you can see, they have a lot of, averages, exponents, factors, there's algebra things, there's fractions, there's concepts in math, time, money, measure, place value. There's literally tons. And then if I want to find more, you just go down into this browse thing, like I said, and you can find ones that teachers have made. You can see the names of the teachers and all sorts of things that they've put up recently. You know, distributing a negative number, converting measurements, science, writing expressions, you know, a lot of it, spelling lists, health education exams. If you just search around in there, you can find all kind of little quizzes, or you can make your own too. And all they have to do, again, is you can kind of see that there was a drop down list. The teacher sets up a class, right? I have an HSE remote class. I have my old HSE class and a pre-GED remote class, and you just set up the names of the students in the class, and they log in, pull their name up from a drop down list, and you can go in and check the grades of students. And it's a real good way of assigning extra practice, or if they're working on something with you, tutoring wise, you can kind of say, hey, go here and practice this. All right. And almost done here. So some of the other things, non-math wise, that, you know, here are a bunch of things in here. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can look at them and explore them on your own. You know, for worksheets, these are some of the practice worksheets that are real good, especially if you're working with math, you know, math skills, working with somebody who needs to work, you know, drill and with fractions up to algebra, right? If there's a certain skill, you can find it in these areas. Math drills, math aids, they're all free. You can print them out. You can send the PDF. You can download the PDF and use it as a background in TeacherMade. All 5 of these sites are you know, have free versions of the worksheets that you can get. And a couple of other useful tips and things. There's an online GED calculator. Let me see if I can get to this. Some people don't realize that within the last, I would say within the last year or two, through Pearson VUE, you can kind of find one of their tests with an actually working GED style calculator, but you kind of have to go into this little demo test to find it. And if you I have directions if anybody wants them, but you go to this website and you go to the 3rd question. You can see it looks like, if you've ever seen a GED practice test or a real test, it looks just like it, right? But you have to kind of go through the first couple of questions. What color is the sky? Yeah, you have to make sure you go all the way down. All right. And you're supposed to select 3 elements or 3 metals. It doesn't really matter what you pick. You just want to get to that 3rd question. And when you get to the 3rd question, you can see up here it says calculator. And once I click on that, there's the full version of the GED calculator, the TI-30XS, and it works exactly like the handheld calculator. And it's free, and they can access it, keep it as an open tab when they're working on things. All right, and the full calculator is there. So, you know, even if they wanted to do some fancy dancy stuff, which my students just recently did, you know, Pythagorean theorem, so they can put in, you know, second x squared, you know, I don't know, 3 squared plus 4 squared, you know, and they can get, you can put anything in there. You can put any fraction in there, you know, it reduces fractions automatically. And again, if you're familiar with the TI-30XS, it does everything that the handheld does. So if you want to reduce the fraction 16 over 256, it reduces it to 1/16. And then you can put expressions in there. Anything you need to do, so they can use this remotely or at home if they have a computer and they don't have the GED calculator, right there it is. So they can practice with it, which I think is one of the biggest skills that they need to do before they take the GED test, is to practice on this calculator. All right. And I'm going to flip back to the PowerPoint. There's some other little math tips that I have in here that are just kind of minor things. There's a graphing calculator that's free online. And there's what I call the alt codes for math symbols. Sometimes if you're typing up a worksheet and you need a division symbol or a square root symbol, you can just hit the alt codes is the quickest way to get that symbol, to insert that symbol in a document or in a presentation. And then finally, some really good language arts resources, and I don't want to get into them. You're welcome to explore them and email me or Kim if you have any more questions about these, but the links are right here in the PowerPoint. Most of these have really good reading lessons. A lot of them deal with like current events or current topics of interest in the world, like ReadWorks. Some of them have vocabulary. Townsend Press, we use Townsend Press materials in some of our classes, so you might have to have set up an account with them if you've used some of their vocabulary or their ESL books. You can go on there, and they have tons and tons of materials online dealing with their products. ReadWorks has exercises that you can assign to students, and everyday edits are something that you can use to practice grammar skills. So feel free to explore any of those and ask if you have any questions on using any of these resources with your tutorees or with students or in a presentation. Let me know. Any questions? I know I threw a lot of stuff at you there in a short period of time, but the best way to, I've found is just to kind of explore and play around and see if these will work for you. We all have different levels of technological savvy, and it might not be something that you're comfortable with using, but some of these are real easy to use, and you can bring them up and print them out, or display them in a presentation, or set up an online assignment with them. And I think a lot of these things can help our students practice certain skills, and also develop some digital literacy skills as well. All right. Anything at all? Any questions on anything at all? I know I went through that kind of quick, but I just wanted to show you all of these different things that I use, as well as the other teachers in our Alta program also use a lot of these as well too. So,
Drew, there was a question in the chat. How
Okay.
TeacherMade compares to Google Docs?
Google Docs I find very clumsy and very confusing for students. TeacherMade is real easy. They just type in their name and go right to the worksheet, put their answer in, hit submit. Google Docs, they have to save things, and then things get changed around. I do use Google Docs for certain things, but it's, you can't set something as a background. You have to type up everything new in Google Docs. Some people we tried back in the beginning, Kim, there's a way that a lot of high school and elementary school teachers were using not Google Docs. They were using the presentation tool to embed background worksheets. What was that?
Google Slides.
Google Slides, right? There's a lot of YouTube videos on using Google Slides to kind of make an interactive worksheet. But to be honest with you, TeacherMade, once you get used to it, you can take any worksheet, any paper sort of worksheet, as long as it's like scanned in, and you can scan it in as a PDF or a JPEG or anything, as long as there's an image of it scanned, that you can download somehow. You can just insert the little check boxes, for multiple choices, or you can insert little lines that they can insert text. You can modify the questions even by typing over the text and doing all sorts of things. And like I said, once you set it up, it automatically grades it, and you have a little grade book. So it's much more streamlined and easy to use than making your own worksheets up from scratch in Google Docs. And then they go to everyone, and then you have to check each one individually. It's all in one place. Hope that answered your question. All right, I'll hand it back to you, Kim.
Okay, if you want to
Well,
stop sharing, I'll
I'm
go
gonna-
back to the PowerPoint on my side, I guess, or unless you want to continue on with it on yours.
How do I stop my share? It says new share. All right. I guess I am stopped, maybe. I don't know. Am I stopped? Oh, there it says stop share. There it is.
Okay. So let me try to share again on my side. We have the same slide show, or just, I have some other information to give you guys. Let me make sure my PowerPoint is going to be presented. Hopefully. You guys have to tell me, did I come up with the right slide?
Yeah, that's it.
That looks good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, we have a few minutes left. So I just wanted to take a few more minutes of your time today to talk a little bit about program management. And this would probably be, for some of the tutor coordinators out there. But I think even the tutors could use some of these resources. I'm all about efficiency as, the program administrator. That's not my only hat, and most days I'm doing, some other things. So I always try to make, things in my workspace efficient so that all my stuff is really easy to get to. My phone is really close, my desk phone, my cell phone if I need it. Many times I need my cell phone to actually get into programs anymore, right? Because if you're going into Google or we just got the new Office 365 email, and it makes me, verify myself every 5 minutes. So all that stuff is really close at hand. My paper clips are here. My stapler is here. Even at home, I try to be as efficient as possible. I don't have my cooking utensils across the kitchen. I have them right next to my stove, so I can always just grab anything that I need. So that's really kind of the premise of where I'm thinking about, program-wise, especially when we had to make such a big change during the pandemic, to going, all remote. Back when computers first became a thing, everybody said, oh, we're going to go paperless, but, that really didn't happen. And now maybe we're starting to get to that point, where things are going a little bit more paperless. So that's another thing that we really struggled with. How do we do intakes? How do we do tracking of attendance when we have to be remote? And maybe some of your programs are, like ours, we're back, probably, 80% of our students are hybrid. They do come to, a certain percentage of their time in the classroom. But, we still decided to keep a lot of those tools and things that we learned that were effective in our program. And I, am a firm believer that, we only get, and I apologize if you look at my lights, if I don't move for 20 minutes, all my lights go off in my office. So I have to keep waving my hands around. And so anyway, so we all have to have a sense of humor, right? And I think the universe only gives us what we can handle. So I think we're ready to maybe move into more of a paperless universe. And I really do feel that technology provides us with those tools to make things more easy and efficient. So that's my little intro. Somebody had asked in the chat about Google, and Google did become kind of our lifesaver for a lot of ways that we kind of took the load off of ourselves as far as how do we share things? How do we communicate with each other? Professional development. Google is a wonderful resource. I feel that there is a lot of benefits to using Google. The Google applications. Google Drive is a cloud storage. If you're not familiar with that term, everything's kind of out in the internet, and you pull it down from wherever you are. So if you're, sitting at your desk in your office, you can pull it up. If you're sitting at home on your couch, you can pull it up, that information. So that became one of our first and foremost ways of using being able to share resources. We created a folder in Google Drive, and I put everything that everybody was finding. So all of Drew's resources, everybody that was finding new information, we were just kind of like dumping it all in there. It became a little bit of a dumping ground, honestly, after a while. But we also found that it was really beneficial to then, be able to just pull some of those resources, do a search if you needed to in that folder. If you have a similar mechanism in your agency, maybe use something like we just, like I said, moved to Office 365. So they have the cloud storage there is called OneDrive. So that's becoming more and more, I think, the way of the future. If it's, not in your regular program, management, it might be something that you want to consider. How do you share things across, especially far distances? Like Drew is 30 miles from me today. So, it's like he's not going to be running to my location to pick up things all the time or to run off copies of things. Just being at a distance from each other, it's really makes it much easier to be able to store those things. Another thing that I would mention that if you aren't using, it's some sort of way of texting your students. I always try to tell my staff, I don't think you should be using your personal cell phone number. We don't provide cell phones to our staff, but there are free tools out there. One of them is called Remind, which is a text messaging app. Some might be familiar with that. I know our K through 12 parents are familiar with it. A lot of the K through 12 schools, and actually that's how I was first introduced to it when my kids were younger. It is a way for you to invite your students to a group chat area. You can message them individually. You can message them and send announcements. Drew mentioned earlier in his presentation about how he created Canva notices for his students. He sends those through Remind, and you can invite other staff to be part of your Remind class. Our college has, I think, a Remind that like they subscribe to. So we all, I don't think there is really a fee base to it, but there is, a way for everybody to kind of be in each other's classrooms in case in case Drew is not able to communicate with his students, I could send out a Remind app message for him and our student support coordinator. So if you have, your case manager, whatever term you use for your person who supports your students, maybe there's some information that, that person would like to share, information on how to register for their GED test, how to get resources for housing or something in the communities that, maybe everybody would benefit from, getting bus pass information out there, whatever it might be. It's a really nice tool to have that communication with. Another one that we've used, and we've started using this more for our orientation communications, is Google Voice. And again, this is everything is free, obviously, from Google. Google Voice, though, gives you a phone number. I'm using it in quotes. It is a phone number, and you can actually give that phone number out to your students. It would need to be connected back to another mobile number. So it does get communicated through your phone, but the students don't get your phone number. So you have an option of declining those and knowing that if they send those messages, they're only going to be stored in the Google Voice, not holding up space in your actual phone, your mobile device. But Google Voice, for us, we like to use it as a chat feature. So there's an actual phone piece where you can call them, but you can also chat through Google Voice. And Google Voice for us became really great in collaboration with Google Translate. So I'm sure some of you are working with English as a second language learners. And, for us, when we were trying to set up orientations, we don't have anybody that speaks other languages on staff. And occasionally I'll get a work study from the college who can translate, but usually only into Spanish. Google Translate has, tons and tons of languages that they'll translate for you. And we can use Google Voice then to send out a translated message to the students and to confirm their orientation day and time, location, all of that key information that they need to know to make sure they get where they need to be. And then they can respond back. We can translate it again. It's a little bit more, back and forth when we use that mechanism, but we found that it was much more beneficial than us calling them, trying to communicate in English, or having them have somebody on the other end on their side, that could translate for them. It's, that old phone game where things can get misconstrued and information would be, lost. So this way we have a record of it, who we contacted, because all of those things are saved. So we know exactly who we contacted, what their response was, and we can share that with our intake person. And, if there's any back and forth, or discrepancies, we have their contact information. And we also use email at times to also transmit some of that information. And then the last one that Drew didn't really touch on, but I know a lot of his resources that he was sharing today, he puts out into Google Classroom. And Google Classroom is a place for the students to go and do their work, but it's also a communication tool. So there is an announcement page on Google Classroom, and we've used that. Actually, we lost our evening instructor at the end of August. And while I was trying to get a new instructor, I was communicating with the students through that teacher's Google Classroom, because she made me a co-teacher in that class. So I try to be a co-teacher in all of my instructors' classrooms, their Google Classrooms, so that, again, if there is something that happens where the teacher can't communicate, I can pop in there and say, hey, so-and-so, or, something's going on, we won't have class today, or, here's an update, on your instructor, whatever might happen. So with this evening class, what I was able to do is go and say, hey, we want to have, just a touch point Zoom meeting. I threw a Zoom link up in there. Classes are going to resume in a couple of weeks, but in the meantime, why don't you jump in? I had one of my other instructors, go through some information. The student support coordinator was able to meet with them. So it was a nice way for us to kind of bridge that little bit of a hiatus that we had to take for our evening class. So there is a communication element to that some may or may not be using. And then the last chunk of information that I wanted to show, I actually wanted to pull these up if I can get back over to I'm in this presentation mode, and this is kind of screwing me up a little bit. So hold on one second. Let me stop sharing. And let me go back over. So I don't know if anybody's ever used the Google Applied Digital Skills website. So that's what I want to share. Okay, so are you guys seeing this? It says digital literacy class.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, this is Google, we love Google. They have an education platform that is specifically designed to help you as a tutor. You could also use this to create or find resources for yourself if you feel like you have some skills that you want to develop. I did put together some professional development classes in here for our staff, things that I thought we would benefit from, because we do use Google Sheets a lot as a tracking mechanism for attendance and information around orientations and that kind of thing. So some of our staff was not familiar with that. So we found that this Applied Digital Skills had some self-paced modules that you can go through. But I'll just let you browse. I'll go over here real quick and let you browse the lessons. This is connected back to my Google account. So if you have already established Google account, then you would be able to log into this with that same account. Initially, you would have to set yourself up as a teacher, and then you can start to set up classes. But what you can do over here on the audience is click on adult learners, or whatever level you want. But I normally pick adult learners, and it kind of narrows down the lessons that you can choose from. You could also just search for a particular lesson if there was something you wanted to do. But these are sort of project-based activities. So if you have something that you have started, working with your students on, and you wanted to incorporate some digital literacy into it, you can use, some of these modules. For instance, we actually have a separate class going on that is specifically for digital literacy at the moment. And we've been using this Google Docs activity. And when you click in there, you're going to see all kinds of teacher materials. You'll get the full lesson plans, everything that you would need to deliver this lesson. So you don't have to come up with any of the information yourself. They give you the objectives. They tell you what digital literacy skills you're going to be working on. Some key terminology, which is always important, obviously, when you're starting off a new lesson with students and yourself as well. So, kind of keeping this as a twofold, professional development and a teaching tool. And then it goes through, a lesson outline, which is really nice as well. Kind of gives you an idea of how much time you're going to need to present this information. So everything is here. And then let me see if I go back. Nope, that was a new tab. All right. There's videos. A guy kind of demonstrates, like we call him Paul because he never introduces himself. So we're not quite sure what his name is, but we call him Mr. Paul. And he will, nope, I didn't want to do that. I'm sorry. Go back up here. So here's Paul, and Paul gives you, he looks like a Paul, right? I don't know.
Google Docs is a cloud-based word.
I don't know if that's sharing or not, but he goes through, he goes through it pretty quickly, but it is something where you can rewatch it. The students could rewatch it. They give you a link to a starter project, which is really nice. Okay, we're not going to do that because we have to copy and paste, but it will go through the directions for doing that, how to set up, if you're not familiar with Google at all, or you don't have an account, that might be the first place to start, obviously. But then once you get into this, it is pretty intuitive, and it does cover a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. So I really enjoy working with that. Another one that I wanted to share, again, I think I have to stop sharing because every time I go to share, it's like picking a different screen.
And Kim, I just wanted to let you know you only have a couple of minutes left.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, really quickly, let me see if I can show you North Star, just in case anybody hasn't used this. Okay, so are you guys seeing North Star now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so North Star, again, this is a free service. It is designed out of Literacy Minnesota, which they have wonderful resources in Minnesota. If you've ever just searched for literacy resources, search for them. They have wonderful basic literacy resources. But this is a free service as well. You can become a North Star location if your site would like to purchase that. It's like $500 a year. You become a certified location, and then you can give out certificates to your students when they complete any of the modules. But just let me see if I can get down to the tests. So these are the different basic modules that the students can go through. Again, you click on them. It has interactive activities that are just wonderful. It will, present an exercise to them. They can actually do it within the module, within the video. I'm always impressed when I go through any of these. I've gone through pretty much all of them. They just recently added accessing telehealth appointments, which I thought was wonderful for students. And then also there is, a lot of resources for, and I don't know if I have time to log in, but when you actually have your North Star location, as an organization, you will get access to the teaching materials as well. So they have handouts and all of that information is available. So that, I think, was my last. Oh, I was just going to mention Google Forms. So my one more Google plug, great for surveys, formative and summative assessments, anything like that. If you haven't used Google Forms, this is a great way, because after the person, or student submits their surveys, it will go into a Google Sheet. You can sort it. You can pull up, information from it. It's a great way to get surveys back from your students. If you have technology surveys, that's what we're going to try and use. Actually, I'm looking at updating a survey so that we can get some technology surveys out to our students so we know exactly what they need with their digital literacy. So I'm sorry that was really rushed. If there's any questions, as Drew mentioned, please feel free to reach out to us. Here's our email. You guys seeing the PowerPoint now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so that's our email. Just, kgavlik or dkaufman@luzerne.edu. Please reach out. We'd love to, share more resources and ways to use it.
Thank you so much, Drew and Kim. And I'm going to stop the recording.